Welcome to the deep dive. We're always trying to figure out why people act the way they do,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's just baffling.
It really can be,
Right.
especially when you feel like you're speaking different languages.
Exactly. Or when you're juggling like a million things and feel like you're just spinning your wheels. So today, we're diving deep. We want to cut through some of that confusion.
We do. We've been looking at this really interesting set of discussions from the WTF research group. It's a mix of sociology, psychology, even some history.
Okay.
And they tackle these common friction points, how men and women communicate, those hidden social pressures, and maybe surprisingly, how our brains actually handle tasks. Spoiler. Multitasking might not be what you think.
Ah, intriguing.
Yeah, the idea is to pull out some key insights, things you can actually use to, navigate interactions a bit better, maybe even boost your own efficiency.
Right. So this isn't just about decoding others. It sounds like it's about understanding ourselves, too. Hopefully making things run a bit smoother, more respectfully.
That's the goal, building better understanding.
Okay, let's get started then. Where should we begin? Maybe with something pretty common. That male tendency to jump in with solutions.
The fix-it mentality. Yes.
It reminds me of that old video, It's Not About the Nail. Have you seen that
Okay,
one?
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Hilarious and painfully true sometimes.
Right. She's got this massive nail in her forehead talking about her headache, and he's just like, well, take the nail out.
And he genuinely thinks he's helping,
Yeah.
but she just wants him to listen to the feeling, the pressure.
Exactly. So what do the sources say? Is this just a stereotype, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, the sources suggest it's often quite ingrained. They link it back to, traditional roles, like hunting maybe,
Mm-hmm.
where the focus had to be laser sharp on the task, the problem, and getting the result, bringing home the bacon, so to speak.
Okay, so a problem-solving focus.
Right. And that drive, that focus, it can clash pretty hard when what someone really needs is just empathy, just an ear, not a 5-point plan.
So it's about recognizing what's actually needed in that moment.
Precisely. And the sources actually suggest asking directly. Something simple like, hey, are you looking for solutions right now, or do you just want me to listen?
That simple question. It could probably save a lot of arguments.
It really could. It acknowledges both the need to vent and the instinct to help, but clarifies the immediate priority.
It takes practice, though, right? Because the urge to fix can feel so strong, like you're supposed to solve it.
Definitely a learned skill for many.
And related to that focus, what about the whole men can't find things trope? The stuff that's
Yeah.
right in front of them, the mommy look versus the daddy look.
Yes, that comes up too.
I literally had a friend over, he lost his phone, stood in the middle of the living room and asked me where it was. He hadn't even looked.
Yes, and the sources touch on that. It might also be linked to that same task focus. When someone says, I've looked everywhere, well, they almost certainly haven't, because if they had, they'd have found it.
Right. It's like they scan quickly for the target, and if it's not immediately obvious.
It's invisible. There's actually a practical tip mentioned, like always hanging your car keys on the inside front doorknob. A simple system. Removes the need to search because the location is fixed. Helps in emergencies too, apparently.
That's actually pretty smart. Okay, so this need to fix, or this focused way of looking, is it about power, or is it more about just feeling capable, competent?
The sources tend to frame it more as a drive for competence.
Yeah.
Possibly, linked way back to those historical roles where solving the problem, completing the task was the measure of competence.
So it's less about dominance and more about fulfilling a sort of internal blueprint.
Kind of. It's about understanding that underlying wiring, not judging it. That understanding is what helps bridge the communication gap. Empathy comes from seeing the why behind it.
Okay, that makes sense. So if that's a common male pattern, let's flip the coin. What about patterns often seen in women? The sources mention this powerful drive towards selflessness.
Yes, that's a big theme. This idea that women often prioritize everyone else's needs, sometimes to the point of completely suppressing their own. It's almost like this deep-seated need to make sure the environment, the people around them, are okay.
Like their well-being depends on everyone else feeling good first.
Exactly. The sources point out how often you read in obituaries things like, she was totally selfless, always there for everybody. It's held up as this ultimate virtue.
Putting themselves at the back of the queue, as one source put it.
Right. And you can trace that back historically, societally, maybe even evolutionarily, to nurturing roles, family caretaking. But the sources question if that's always helpful or even appropriate today. It persists, though, both as an internal feeling and an external expectation.
You see it in small things, don't you? Like automatically offering your scarf if someone else looks cold, even if you're freezing.
Absolutely. Or the example that really stood out from the sources, women pouring water for everyone in a meeting.
Oh, I've seen that happen so many times. Why is that significant?
Because, according to the sources, even if unintentional, that simple act can subtly reinforce stereotypes. It can sort of downgrade the woman performing the action to an assistant-type role, regardless of her actual position or authority in that room.
Yeah, never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and there was this anecdote about a male coach who consciously started pouring the water in meetings. He did it deliberately to shift that dynamic, to support his female colleague, and challenge the assumption that she would just automatically do it.
That's quite powerful. It highlights the unconscious nature for many women versus the conscious effort needed, often for men, to break the pattern.
Precisely. It shows how deep these expectations run.
And it's not always subtle, is it? I mean, I've personally been in situations where, in a professional setting, someone just turns to me, the woman, and says, "Can you organize this?" Even when it has nothing to do with my role.
Yes, that direct expectation. And it ties into some worrying trends, like those reports from the UK about female teachers experiencing real misogyny from students being told their opinions don't count simply because they're women.
That's deeply concerning. What do the sources suggest is behind that?
It points towards a broader issue, maybe a breakdown in respect generally. And the sources speculate about a possible lack of positive male role models, particularly in education, showing boys how to engage respectfully.
And this connects to things at home too, right? That statistic you mentioned.
Oh, the housework one. Yeah, it was quite startling. Even during the pandemic, when you had many couples both at home full-time, the study cited suggested women were still doing around 80% of the housework.
80%, even when both were home.
80%. It really shows how persistent these roles are. The sources use this image of the woman as octopus, constantly being pulled in multiple directions by these demands and expectations.
That's a vivid image.
Yeah.
Octopus. Yeah, I can see that. So the takeaway here is,
It seems to be a dual need. Women needing to consciously recognize and perhaps step back from some of these ingrained giving patterns, and men needing to actively step up and share the load, challenging those assumptions. It's about creating genuine partnership and respect.
moving beyond the autopilot roles. Okay, so we've looked at some gender patterns. What about something that affects literally everyone? This idea of multitasking.
Ah, yes. The great productivity myth.
You called it a delusion earlier, based on the sources. That's a strong word.
It is, but the sources are pretty clear. The fundamental point is our brains can really only focus on one thing, requiring cognitive effort at a time. What we call multitasking is actually rapid task switching.
Switch it. Okay, explain that.
Think about driving. Every time you switch your attention from the road to the radio, back to the road, maybe check a text alert, it's like hitting the brakes mentally, shifting gears, and then accelerating again on the new task.
Right, like that analogy you mentioned, stoplights. Braking, accelerating, braking, accelerating.
Exactly. And each switch has a cost. It takes time, it uses mental energy, it makes you less efficient overall, and the tasks actually end up taking longer than if you just did them one after the other.
Okay, I get that. And it kills that feeling of being in the zone, doesn't it? That flow state where you're just cruising along on a task.
Absolutely. Interruptions shatter that flow. And the sources mentioned studies suggesting it can take, what was it, up to 20 minutes to fully regain that deep focus after being pulled away.
20 minutes, that's huge.
It really adds up over a day of constant switching. You can even test this yourself, really simply. Try timing yourself writing the alphabet, A to Z, then the numbers 1 to 26 underneath.
Okay.
Then time yourself doing it alternately, A1, B2, C3, and so on. The alternating version will always take longer. That's the switching cost in action.
I'm definitely going to try that later. So what about the perception that women are better multitaskers? Is there any truth to that?
Well, it's complicated. The sources do mention research suggesting women might have a larger corpus callosum. That's the connection between the brain's hemispheres. Think of it like a wider highway.
Okay, a super highway.
Right, which might allow them to switch between tasks faster than men, whose connection might be more like a narrower road, let's say.
A bush track, maybe.
Maybe. But crucially, even if the switching is faster, it's still switching. It's not doing two cognitively demanding things simultaneously. And it still comes with an efficiency cost for everyone.
Right. Faster switching isn't true multitasking. So what doesn't count as this inefficient multitasking then? Because we often do combine activities.
Good question. The sources clarify this. Things like, say, holding a baby while you hang laundry.
Hmm.
That's probably fine. The baby holding part becomes somewhat automatic, not requiring constant active thought for the laundry task.
Okay, what else?
Listening to music while cleaning, usually fine. The music is background. Watching TV while chopping onions, if the chopping is routine, yeah. But if you suddenly need to focus on a complex recipe while the TV is on, one of them has to give.
Ah, I see. The mental input requirement.
Exactly. Or think about driving in really bad weather, heavy rain at night. What's the first thing most people do?
Turn the radio off.
Right, because suddenly driving requires all your cognitive focus. You eliminate the other input. Inefficient multitasking is trying to juggle two or more tasks that both demand significant mental energy at the same time.
So basically, my day spent bouncing between emails, Slack messages, writing a report, taking a call. That's probably why I feel exhausted by 3 p.m., not productive.
Very likely. That constant switching is draining. The alternative proposed in the sources is batching.
Batching, like grouping similar tasks.
Sort of. It means dedicating a focused block of time to one type of task. Work on emails for 30 minutes, then take a real break. Then focus on writing for an hour, then break. It's about sequencing, not constant juggling, like the Pomodoro technique, sometimes called the tomato method.
Right, focused sprints, then rests.
Exactly. It tends to be much more efficient and, importantly, more energizing. The key question to ask yourself, the sources suggest, is, does this activity energize me or exhaust me? If it's exhausting, you might be caught in that multitasking trap.
That's a really useful question. Okay, wow. We covered quite a bit. From the male fix-it mode and finding things
Right, the task focus,
to the female selfless giver pattern and those societal weights.
the octopus analogy.
Yeah, and then hitting this universal truth about multitasking being, well, a myth that drains us. It seems like understanding these things, gender patterns, brain function, it's really fundamental to just getting along better and maybe being less stressed ourselves.
Absolutely. It really boils down to that idea we mentioned earlier, listening to understand, not just to respond or fix. When we can appreciate why someone might communicate differently or why we feel frazzled trying to do too much, that builds respect.
It allows for empathy, maybe, seeing the wiring or the societal pressure or just the brain mechanics.
Exactly. That's how you build those bridges of respect, one conversation and one interaction at a time. Recognizing these differences instead of being frustrated by them.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something for you, our listener, to think about. Knowing now that true multitasking is basically a delusion, what's one habit, just one thing you do where you're constantly switching, that you could consciously challenge this week? What could you batch instead to maybe reclaim some focus and energy?